From the Ticats Audio Network, this is the Ticats This Week with RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker.
Great to have you with us for another edition of Ticats This Week. I'm RJ Broadhead, he's Luke Tasker, and I think we're due. To call a win here this week. What do you think, Luke?
I think so, man. It's got to be time, and from all the vibes that you get from the player interviews and from the feel at this extra long week of practice that you always get coming out of the bye week, I don't know. It feels like a winning environment there, and you listen to the CFL This Week with Bubba O'Neill earlier, and plenty of guys. I mean, the Ticats. No one's down on the Ticats in the East. You know, it's not your regular 0-4 scenario that we're in. People, including myself, have some positivity still. Well,
it's the futility of everybody else in the East Division. 0-4, it hasn't been great for the Tiger Cats. There's no denying that. The record isn't good. They haven't won a game. However, one win, and they're in pretty good shape.
And there's somebody else struggling as well at 0-4.
Yeah, exactly. And Ottawa, no Jeremiah Masoli, and you look at the statistics that Ottawa has put up, and it's been predominantly because of the great play of Jeremiah Masoli. So we'll see. They're 0-4 now. Caleb Evans is listed as the starting quarterback coming in. That's not a kind situation for him coming into Tim Hortons Field against a very tough Hamilton defense who really dominated Caleb Evans in a game last year. So Tiger Cats have to be feeling pretty good about this. But you're right. Both these teams, This is desperate football. One of them are going to be in pretty good shape by Saturday night.
Yeah, and isn't that crazy there? And the other one is going to be, what's the word for where you are at 0-5? I mean, RJ, when we were 0-3, sitting in the booth up there, and you were saying, honestly, you know, you had a very hopeful and positive energy and attitude about the season, and after 0-4. It kind of, for a moment there, it was a little bit like, boy, what are these Ticats going to do to turn this around? But as the dust settled from that loss, it was kind of like we're talking now. It's actually not that far off still. But at 0-5, whichever team's going to end up there in a few hours later into this week, I don't know. That looks and feels a lot different. And that 1-4 team is going to be neck and neck to have a run for first in the East.
Both Hamilton and Ottawa playing an East Division team for the first time this season. So all 8 of the losses have come against the West Division. And you're right, I have been really positive. 0-3, I wasn't worried. 0-4, I thought that was a game that Tiger Cats probably should have won on paper. Trey Ford, he came in, rookie quarterback, only had a couple of completions in his CFL career. I really thought the Hamilton defense would shut him down, and really they did. When you look at the turnovers, that really cost Hamilton. Of the 20 points Edmonton scored in the second half, 17 of those came off of turnovers. Yeah. So that's been a real problem for the Tiger Cats as well. It's been talked about. They know about it. I mean, you can talk about it. You still have to do it. And I've kind of anticipated that these turnovers are going to stop, and they just keep continuing. What do you think coming into this game against Ottawa? Are we finally going to see an end to losing the turnover battle?
There's 2 that are stuck in my head, and that is the off of Sean Thomas Erlington's hands for the interception, and then also in the fourth quarter of this last Ticat game, Dane Evans on his feet out of the pocket, and really the ball in what was not a terrible position to have. I mean, it's not like those pictures you see and guys got it, in one palm out in the open, like classic Andy Fantuz out with one mitt while he's stiff arming somebody else behind him. Dane had the ball kind of tucked. I don't want to say high and tight, but pretty close to that. Pretty close to his body. And when a defender puts the top of the helmet right in the perfect spot, it is incredibly difficult to maintain the control. And those 2 turnovers in that game stand out to me as, you can kind of make a lot of excuses like I just did for them. And it's because it is difficult to hold on to the football when somebody's trying to tackle you and trying to take it away. but you've got to find the way. You got to find a way to hold on, even in those circumstances. Even when the defense is making a great play, you've got to find a way to do it. And so that's kind of one of the things that's frustrating to me, RJ, is that going 0-3 into that fourth game, I really kind of felt the tides of change. It kind of seemed like everything was set up for them to get their first win and to kind of cure that problem that they had with the turnovers, and really neither of those things ended up happening. And so, I kind of want to be careful of doing the same thing, saying, well, they definitely won't go 0-5. Well, things can happen to make you 0-5. In fact, one team will be 0-5 short of a tie, and so you've got to each individual player, and that's kind of the fortunate and unfortunate truth of football, is that each guy has to decide to do everything he can to have a positive impact on the turnover ratio going into the game.
And statistics tell a story. 44% of the points the Tiger Cats have allowed this year have come off turnovers. So that's almost half the points they've allowed are directly related to a turnover the Tiger Cats have made. So it definitely has to stop. The other thing that has to change, Luke, are these second halves. Jeff Giordad, who does a great job with our statistics, he was, we had thrown out, how many have been in the second half, and he totaled it up. So 15 turnovers this season for the Tiger Cats. 13 have come in the second half. So think about that. First game against Saskatchewan, remember the first two possessions? The Tiger Cats turned the ball over. So those are the only two turnovers they've had in the first half. The other 13, including 9 in the fourth quarter, have come in the second half. They've blown leads, double-digit leads, both times at halftime at Tim Hortons Field in those two losses. What can they do to stop these collapses in the second half?
Well, you hear me say it every week. What gets me so excited when Dane Evans has options quickly and the ball is out of his hands. It's been talked about almost as much as turnovers has been talked about the adversity on the offensive line that the Ticats have suffered from this year. And when you're dealing with that, a quarterback loves to have some quick, short answers. I just think Dane himself kind of referenced maybe that mentality for the offense as they come out of the bye week in some of his early interviews, that maybe we're going to see some sort of simplified concepts in the passing game, and I'm all for that. I am all for that, man. I had a handful of really great coaches throughout my career, and one of them was June Jones, and simple, at least on paper, was the name of the game. I mean, the entire offense was installed on day 5 of training camp, and then as the season went along, you just barely tweaked things here and there, maybe added a play sometimes for a specific defense that you're going to see, but not really. You really more so just got more and more intimate with the decisions that you had to make on the simple concepts that were in. And once the ball snapped, different things could happen that would make your route adjust or change, that would change the quarterback's read, of course. But on paper, it was very clear and simple what we were doing. And that's a really freeing way to play the game as a wide receiver and a quarterback, when sort of the on paper, the scientific, the theoretical part of the game is boiled down a little bit, and then the on field you're able to think a little quicker.
There's an old saying, it meant jokingly, don't think, you'll hurt the team. So more like you should react. But that, to me, how you explained it, Luke, is when everything's simplified like that, you really don't have to think as much, because you kind of know, and you've run all the same plays, and when you take that maybe questioning yourself, am I running the right route? Is this the play that's called? That has to be easier for a player.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster if the snap count has started and you're still thinking through, and it happens. It just happens sometimes. It's the Tommy Condell calls it the fog of war. Sometimes you could hear a play 15 times during the week of prep, and you know it, and you understand your responsibilities and more. Football and the way an offense is at the professional level, it's not just your responsibility. It's anticipating the decisions you'll have to make once the play starts. that's really kind of what it takes to intellectually be ready for that play. It's not just saying, okay, I'm running a corner route, running a corner route, running a corner route. It's, okay, I'm running a corner route, and if the corner's high, I'm going to flatten it off. If the corner's underneath, I'm going to keep my angle high. And if the corner's high and outside, I'm going to bite my route off short. It's being ready for the decisions you're about to have to make over the next 10 seconds. So if you're still digesting that during the snap count, you have to already be in the process of reading the defense. You have to be already in the process of seeing where the high corner is or the low corner. And if you're still thinking, wait a minute, what do I have on sale pump? Oh wait, it's on 1 or 2, and then it's done, and then it's gone too far. So you can be great with 100 plays on a play sheet, and we're not privy to how many Tommy Condell has in there. But I had some weeks where Tommy had quite a few on the old call sheet, and then there's also some times where you have whatever sub 60 total calls available to the team, and you can sort of more quickly get to a place where that's second nature to digest each of them.
Yeah, interesting stuff. That would be a terrible feeling. It's like going into an exam and you haven't studied. So a couple of guesses. I was thinking back to last year, and it was a slower start, 0-2. Tiger Cats never lost more than 2 in a row last season in that shortened 14-game season. But what kind of turned the team around was the defense started chipping in with some points and some touchdowns. You don't want to rely on your defense for that, but how much would that help if the defense can put some points on the board against Ottawa on Saturday?
Yep, and like we've discussed, I'm always, when I'm thinking turnover ratio, I'm thinking you better not. But a defensive guy thinks you better. Yes. You go make it happen, and so that's part of it too. And if we saw a great amount of interceptions and knockdowns from the defensive secondary last season, and we'd love to see that start to increase on that side of the ball too, as well as the fumbles and the sacks and the times, especially in Winnipeg. I can think back to where the Ticat rush started to really put some pressure on Collaros and get some penetration through the offensive protection, and that is just as damaging to the opposing team's efforts as well. And so it's two-sided. Everybody's got to go out there, and it's all. You always pose the question to yourself and to your teammates who are in your group or your side of the locker room, or just or who you're closest with, and you say, why not today? Like, why can't I just book? Like, what in the world is stopping me from having the best game of my life in 20 minutes from now? And when you're in that type of mindset, sometimes it happens. Sometimes you actually do have the best game of your life.
Yeah, the mental game is a powerful thing. We talked about defense. We have to talk no Simone Lawrence. He is not going to play. He's been put on the 6-game injured list. What impact does that have on the Tiger Cats defense?
It's impactful. It really is. He is a leader and has been for almost a decade, and it's almost like you can't believe it. Like, I don't know how many games Simone's missed in his career. I can literally remember 1, and maybe it's been 2 prior to this, but it's not been many. And he's just a guy who's so high energy and it takes such good care of himself. He just doesn't. He's not vulnerable. He kind of has a really special gift of having been able to protect himself throughout his career. So it's hard to imagine a Ticat defense without 21 out there, but those guys are tight, man. And that linebacking core, who has experienced so little adversity in the injury department over the last 2 seasons. I mean, they were very, very healthy and performed at a high level. I will say that a linebacking core and the defensive secondary, it's not just that those guys. I don't want to make it sound that it's easy to interchange, because it's not. It's just as hard, certainly just as hard as the receiving group. It's no easier than that. But I actually think that group of guys really takes pride in being able to be interchangeable, to be next man up, to support each other when there's a shortcoming in a position group. And like we've discussed, you'll hear Mike Daly and Courtney Stephen say a similar thing. That offensive line has an unbelievable amount of communication, and right behind them, in my mind, is defensive secondary. And so it is to plug and play with different guys. The communication has to be tight, has to be very, very on point. But like I said, I think it's a mentality of kind of priding themselves on overcoming challenges like this. And it'll be interesting to see the will position this week. And like we've talked about all season, RJ, that position has a unique set of trials this year and going into the future of Canadian football because of the new widened boundary. And so, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be spotlighted. We'll be talking about it in the broadcast. I would think.
For sure. Kyle Wilson going to go in there. He looked great in training camp, a couple of preseason games. Other players on the defense have called him a hitter. So he could be exciting to watch. Jovan Santos Knox, we've seen him emerge, one of the best tacklers in the CFL this season. Cam Kelly, he's got an interception. He's been all over the place. So it is the fortunate thing for the Tiger Cats. You can't replace a Simone Lawrence, but there is some depth at linebacker. It reminds me of a story that Simone told last year, Luke, when he was asked what his goals were going into the season. He said, my goal going into the season was to be at every single practice during the year. Because if I'm at every single practice, it means I'm healthy and I'm helping my game, I'm helping my team, and I'm working to be ready for those games. I hadn't heard that as a goal, but it's true. If you're at every practice, that means you have stayed healthy and you will be able to perform in the games. Yeah,
and Simone, like I said, I mean, he brings a high energy, and that's not unrelated to this injury. Like, that helps a guy. Like, it's helped him in his career because he's so excited, and when you're when you take the field and you're not quite there mentally, you're probably not only are you probably not playing at your best, but you are injury prone. It takes an energy and excitement to move in such an athletic way that helps you protect yourself. I remember training camp like 2014, 2015, something early on in my career, and that was also early on in Simone's career, where Jeff Reinbold came out on the field for training camp and kind of everyone's out there kind of talking and yelling and getting ready to warm up for a practice in training camp. And Reinbold yells across the field, "Simone, I remember when you liked football," meaning like teasing him because Simone's out there jumping and like almost screaming like a kid does when he's excited at a whatever birthday party or something. Like Simone was at a kid's birthday party every single day on the practice field. That's his level of excitement. Like, they just brought out the piñata and you're at your buddy's birthday party as a second grader. And so Reinbold like sees, like, it's just a ball of like unbelievable, like, football athletic energy in this grown man who's fat, and Reinbold goes, "I remember when you liked football," and Simone has that great energy, and so that'll be missed even for if it's one game or however long it will be. It's hard to have that energy gone from a group. For sure. So that's the big change on defense. On offense, Alex Fontana will be back at center. Don Jackson comes in at running back. I want to talk to you, though, in the receiving core about Anthony Johnson. He had a great preseason, and he was a whisker away from being with the main team, but he's been on the practice roster. Pappy White with an injury, so he actually adds a bit of size. Stephen Dunbar at 6'3" will still be their tallest receiver, but Johnson at 6'2", it's something that maybe that receiving core needs. But what do you expect from Anthony Johnson, who's been champing at the bit on the practice roster for 4 games? It's a great opportunity for him, firstly, to come in and be a young player. That one of the challenges in that situation is to be able to rise to that occasion when your name gets called, because it's not going to get called all the time. And so sometimes that type of player, you maybe don't even think about him or say his name in the broadcast, or he doesn't stand out to you on the field until midway through the third quarter, and then all of a sudden he has to go make a play, and it's his first play ever, and he's got to do it. And maybe it's an Oscar route, a 6-yard out route. Maybe that's it, and it's okay. Got my first catch, and good, I'm into the game, and this is great. Or it might be a 55-yard post route, and then yeah. And you gotta have mentally, and for a guy like that and young and not been on the field this year and not been called on to make those kind of plays, you got to just be preparing yourself and visualizing as you get ready for this game that we're thinking about how is that going to feel when it's 2 quarters into the game and I haven't done anything yet. Am I going to feel angry? Am I going to feel a little tired? Like, am I going to mentally be in the game? And what am I going to do when that happens? And you walk yourself through those scenarios, hypotheticals, and get into those moments. And I even thought to myself, sometimes I would think, okay, what am I going to feel like if I make a mistake? And in that next drive, what am I gonna do? Like, what's my physical, mental response gonna do after that, and how can I bounce back from it? And so, young guy's got to be ready for a lot of things that happen in a football game that he hasn't experienced yet. And it'll be great to see when that ball does come his way. Watch him secure that, get upfield, and make a move. And once you've done that, once your first one comes in a game, and then you're mentally sort of all of a sudden snapped in place.
So a couple other changes. Tyler Turnowski will be at wide receiver. David Ungerer to the practice roster. I thought he'd been playing well, but not targeted a lot. And then the kicking game's a bit interesting too, Luke, over this bye week. Seth Small comes back in. He was perfect in the preseason. Simon Laurier, who seemed to be punting fairly well, was released. John Ryan, who's got a great career in the NFL and CFL. He won't play on Saturday, but he is signed by the Tiger Cats. But Michael Domagala moves to the punter, and Seth Small comes in as the kicker. Were you surprised at all the movement in the kicking game?
I was, and listeners should go back to the Coach O show this week. And Coach, it was very candid what he said. He's, sometimes you have the wrong flag by your name, and there's nothing to complain about there. I mean, that's just the nature of the CFL. Don't feel bad for yourself. And I thought Laurier was punting very, very well, but you gotta fit in where a job is available, And to be honest, right now, there's just a job available for Simon Laurier, though he performed very well. It's an interesting piece of adversity in to me what is a really good punter's career. So I hope that he lands. He's able to, find more places to kick and more opportunities for himself. Because RJ, I think you and I were multiple times throughout the 4 games referencing, and he wasn't just a neutral; he was a net positive on the games. He was. He performed well. But boy, there is a game within a game in the CFL, and making sure all the numbers are right on the roster, just as important as playing great. Everybody's got their job to do, and so it goes in the CFL. Nothing new, though. I hope the absolute best for him, because I thought he was very, very impressive throughout the season. And this week, Domagala at the long snap now, at the 15-yard snap for the punt, and boy, interesting world of professional sports. It was always my dream to find myself having to be a punter in a game, and just
your dream.
I wanted to, not of course. Well, no, not of course all the injuries that would have had to happen to get me back there, but I like to pride myself as the emergency punter.
Really?
And just have to all of a sudden, adapt, and I could run some fakes, I could do whatever, and I was also priding myself on being emergency quarterback too. Neither of these things ever took place, but it's an exciting game. For a guy that's just finds himself in a new position, just seize the moment and try to be great there. And the team, you're the guy, so the team wants you. The team, you're best in that position for the team this week, and you just go and try to be great.
Versatile. We see it on the Ticats Audio Network right now. I'm peppering you with questions, so you're answering them. You're an analyst during the game. You interview Coach O every week. So I can see it.
And now you're becoming the football expert in the room. So next year, actually no. In a couple weeks from now, you and I are going to switch, and I'm going to do play-by, and then you're going to do the color, and we're just going to, the more you can do.
For sure, great. You always got to be ready, and we'll probably never want to switch again after we do that and see what the other guy has to do. But
you did say though you like my sponsor readings in the podcast though.
It's great,
right?
You got enthusiasm, your inflections on the correct words. It's very good.
Who's going to pay us to say their name on Ticats this week?
Yes,
we're ready.
Yeah,
we're going to give you a great sponsor read if you want to get your name on this podcast.
Yeah, we'll do a sponsor read competition.
Oh, awesome. We might have to make a jingle for somebody pretty soon here. That might be good too.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to sing. You can sing. That's another one of your talents. And you're an alumnus of distinction. How about that?
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, so if some of the listeners aren't sure what it is, you explain it, Luke. You're being honored before the game on Saturday.
Well, I can't wait. I feel honestly so honored. Dave Stala was last home game alumnus of distinction, and I can't wait. I'll be out. I think I'll be signing autographs before the game. I believe at 4 p.m. In the plaza outside of the stadium, and I'm just so grateful that the Ticats have for everything and all the years I've been part of this family, and this week I'll be out there and I think I run on the field before the team and maybe even get to do a little Oski Wee Wee with Pigskin Pete, which I mean, a dream of mine. I thought it as a player. I will admit there was times where it crossed my mind thinking, I wonder if I'll ever be able to do that. do the Oski Wee Wee out there. It's pretty cool. So I can't wait.
Well, for all the fans, I'm telling you, go get Luke's autograph. He's a great analyst, he's a great player, and he's an even better person. So you'll love chatting with Luke, and that autograph will be fun to get. And there's also fun for the whole family before kickoff. You get there early before the game starts, and now there'll be activities, giveaways, and a lot more ahead of kickoff. That's at the South Plaza Saturdays at Tim Hortons Field. So get there nice and early and get set for the game. It is a big game. Let's talk about how you can't beat the Argos Tiger Cats rivalry, but there is a rivalry developing between the Redblacks and the Tiger Cats. Sean Burke goes over as the general manager and gets some pretty good Tiger Cats. Jeremiah Masoli, we wish him all the best in his recovery. I know a lot of us were looking forward to seeing him play. But Jalen Ackland's there, Darius Sirocco, Jackson Bennett, Lorenzo Malden. I know you're a fan of his. He leads the Redblacks in sacks, so he's having a pretty good season. I know you were a Tiger Cat your whole CFL career, but what do you think these guys are feeling like coming back to Tim Hortons Field?
I would imagine, especially for, and unfortunately Jeremiah is not going to be suited up, but that would be an interesting feeling. And pretty soon here we're going to have Brandon Banks coming back to
yes,
Tim Hortons Field, right? It's such as the world of professional sports. It is interesting the roster similarities this year in Ottawa to last year in Hamilton, but it makes the league exciting. You got. I remember there was a year I had been playing for 4 or 5 seasons, and all of a sudden I felt like I probably have a former teammate on almost every team now, and that's just how much bouncing around and things happen, and it makes it really kind of unique to the CFL and part of the fun with our league. But we'll see. Those guys are coming in with and thinking nothing about their former time in Hamilton. I would imagine, and like you said, I don't have the experience personally, just because I was in Hamilton only. But it is. I think when you have those thoughts quickly, and then pretty soon you're nothing but the game.
So I always like to give you the last thought on Ticats this week. 2-0-4 teams, really. I know you don't like to say must wins, but one of these teams is going to get that victory. What are your thoughts going into Saturday's game?
And the reason I don't like to say must wins is because at some point in the season you do get to a must win, or unfortunately maybe there's been years, of course, where we haven't, and you lock it in before it was ever at risk of being out of reach. But
wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, and that's happened many. 2019, we were locked into the playoffs like at week 9 or something. It was crazy, and so that'll come. And one of these teams very well may have a must win in their future. In their maybe the middle part of the season, even you might start seeing some of that for the East. And so, but certainly they're building in importance, and for both of these teams, it makes an enormous difference whether you're 1-4 or 0-5. Dane Evans, I saw a few players at an event earlier this week at the field. Tunde Adeleke I was talking to, and they're getting that talk too as to what's it like compared to 2017, or are there similarities to that? And I kind of told these guys, like, it doesn't really feel like that to me. It doesn't. It didn't feel like we were very close at that time, and it feels like you're very close now as a Hamilton Tiger Cat. And so, truly can't speak to what it feels like in Ottawa. I wonder what the energy is there, and it's very, very hard. In fact, I have a direct memory of losing Jeremiah Masoli as my starting quarterback. I know exactly what that's like to have Jeremiah Masoli taken away from you in the middle of a season. And when that happened to us in 2019, obviously the Ticats continued to have a very impressive year. Both of these teams, maybe they have more hope than you might expect because they're still so within reach of playoffs, at least, and also still an Eastern title. But it's time to go. So we'll see. We'll see if the Ticats can make it happen. RJ, we said the same thing in week 4, and we were hopeful to see a turnaround there, but just excited for a great day on Saturday.
So, Luke, somebody's O has got to go.
Very good. Very good.
Well,
forgot about that one.
Yeah. I could probably lead the show with it on Saturday. It'll work again. And good. Hopefully it leans toward the Tiger Cats. Hey, always great chatting with you, Luke. I think we're all set for this one. And, well, kickoff only a few hours away. We'll see you then.
All right, RJ. Looking forward to it.
So, Ticats this week. We got you all set up for the Redblacks and the Tiger Cats. Both teams looking for that first win of the season. Kickoff is at 5 o'clock. Luke and I will have the call. Great to have you joining us on Ticats this week, and hope you can join us for the broadcast on the Ticats Audio Network.
It's been another busy week for your Hamilton Tiger Cats. Luke Tasker and RJ Broadhead have covered it all, and now we would like to hear from you. Email us anytime at gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.